There's just 1 minute to showtime.
The engines are on.
The following program is brought to you in living color.
When they wrote up the systems and the rule set that we use, did working people get to write a line? What class of men on pen and paper jotted down their clues? With capital, the heart of their design. When 90 million want a thing, but some shareholders say no, which class of people get to have their way? The people read the fine print, say that this thing has got to go, and we'll start writing a new contract here today. Don't you know that hundreds will work and one man keeps the money? They don't think they gotta tell us why. When they say the new social contract, all the bosses will be gobsmacked and everyone will want a sign. Oh, yeah, everyone will want a sign.
Okay, hello cousins. As you can see, I am by myself currently. We are trying to solve some technical issues. It looks like, as usual, we've had a lot of issues going on here recently. It's not him, it's me. So Mr. Jared, as it seems, is having power outage presently and doesn't know if he's going to be able to make the show today. We just found out about all this. We're going to see if we can get him on in a guest link. And see if that maybe solves the issue, or maybe he can do some crazy like shaky phone action. We're not sure. I'm watching. I'm monitoring this situation. This is a show that we were looking forward to doing together. So I don't know if we might revisit this topic. I'm sure that we will over time. Just for the fact that this is an ongoing thing. We were really. My seat. I get like toddler mode. My seat gradually just like sinks, and then I end up like down here like baby mode. So I know it happens. I know it's a thing. I am aware of it. Yeah. So we're monitoring the situation. We're trying to figure this out. It's like no big deal like situation. It just seems like an average power outage. It's just the timing was really bad. So it's something that we definitely wanted to have a conversation about rather than me kind of just trying to go live about it and figure it out. So we'll get as far as we get, and we'll see if he is able to join us in a little while. I don't know just yet. I'm distracted by like Limp Bizkit videos putting on my television. I always play classic videos on this day for like 80s videos, but then usually at this time it switches, and I looked over and it was Limp Bizkit. So for some reason that comes up on our show all the time, and I don't know why. It's not intentional. Okay, all right. So anyway. Ready good books lately? No, just kidding. It's just we were just caught a little off guard by all this, and so we're trying to get. I'm trying to wrap my head around the whole situation of like where exactly I wanted to get started, because he usually starts the show in terms of topics. I got a comment recently that our show is fun because we make hell fun, apparently. So I like that. So come and join the fun hell, I guess. That's kind of our intention. That's really what we're out here trying to do most of the time anyways, everything is really awful all the time. And we're both just kind of like lighthearted people, I guess you'd say. So it's, that's just our perspective of it. It's not like we want to make fun of everything and take it not seriously. Everything is very, very serious. And when you're on the losing team all the time and nobody's listening and you're trying to save their rights and they're like, take my rights, I don't even want them. That's how we end up here. And that's kind of where we are today. So something that we were going to talk about today, and we'll get as far as we get. We'll see what happens with our very own mayor, is if he will be able to join We just don't know yet. Shout out to the chat. Are you Time Traveler 2, one of our regular viewers? Hello back to you. Yes, hopefully Jared can join us. Okay, so what we wanted to talk about today was, and something we're trying to get out ahead of, because we've been kind of in this mode of news being like this solid brick of shit where it's really kind of impenetrable. Things are just sort of like you kind of just, it all melds together right now. And it's a very unusual time, I think, for all of us, but especially when you're trying to comment on the news and commentate on it. And again, we're not journalists, by the way. I've had some journalistic training, but it's really not my bag. We just have opinions. That's what brought us here. So, like, my opinions are basically it. Like, we're not trying to like break the news or anything. There are people who are professionals who do that, where we just comment on it with our asshole opinions. Everybody else can have asshole opinions, so can we. So it's been really hard to kind of penetrate that like solid brick of news is essentially where we are. Like it's sort of been hard to take like one story away from another story because they're all melded together. And when you're dealing with something as fickle as the Trump administration, it's one day it's like, oh, we're going to do tariffs on everybody. Next day, we're going to do war on everybody. Next day, we're not going to do tariffs anymore. Next day, we're doing 200% tariffs. And then the next day, we're doing taking Greenland by war. Next day, Suez Canal, or not Suez Canal, but Panama Canal. Anyways. That's where we're at. And it's hard to like get ahead of anything because it's everything is just so concentrated. There have been some pretty serious developments over the past couple of days, though, which I'll probably, since it's just me out here, talk about whatever I want. I'll probably get to this too about the apparent slip up and security slip up, using that term loosely, with Pegasus, Megaseth, Megaseth. Okay, Jared says he doesn't think his phone's going to work. Okay. All right, then. So just me, sounds like. That's going to happen, though. We're disappointed that we wouldn't be able to talk about anything that we plan to. Anyways, as I was saying, this apparent security breach of Pete Seth Heg. I don't know. I don't know it, and I don't care to know it. It's all against my will, anyways. So he apparently is, I guess, not really even being bothered about the fact that he looped in a reporter, a journalist, into the plans to some war plans, like to attack Yemen, Iran, that kind of a thing. The when, the where's, the what's, the how's. So that's where we are with that, but nobody really seems to give a shit. And that's another part of this too, is that like there's this sort of national apathy happening where even people who care about this stuff don't really care about this stuff because it's just like, oh, well, tomorrow it's going to be some other kind of fresh hell that we have to deal with. So it's really spinning people in circles. I've seen some journalists, some independent journalists saying like, okay, like what did they say then? If you could talk about it, then say it. And then there's also a lot of question about the person that it was leaked to and how it happened. I think that's probably a really big part of the story that's really not being told. The author, apparently, I don't have his name in front of me, and if I go off screen, I'll just be like, so I'm not going to do that. But you can look it up. It's not like I made this news up. So the author, apparently, he was a what I understand from what I'm reading is this isn't just some random come up through the ranks journalist that now works at the Atlantic. This guy is a pretty bad guy, and with a pretty bad history. He was someone who voluntarily left his life to go and serve in the Israeli military, and was part of some of the doing some really bad shit, like a guard, and he, by his own admission, apparently in a memoir that he wrote, he was not okay. We've got a comment about how the Hegseth is an alcoholic and was drunk and bragging about it, which I don't doubt. I didn't hear. I mean, like sometimes it really is fingers in the ears here. We can only take in so much. I don't doubt it at all. I know he's a drunk and a jerk off. I don't have to be convinced. But anyway, this journalist apparently he voluntarily went to serve in the IDF and ran interference as a guard for the other ones, and probably went light on himself. I mean, it's hard to imagine that they're like, oh, we all were in on it, but this one guy was the angel, and the worst thing he did was cover up for our crimes. Like, no, you're equal, and it's like if you're a soldier, you're equal. So that's basically what the situation seems to be. Is he admits that he ran interference for the IDF torturing prisoners. He admits this openly. And then now somehow he works at the Atlantic. So that right there should be, I mean, the people on the left are not fans of the Atlantic anyways. But it really should be a disqualifier if that they would hire somebody under that pretext. Anyways, so, I mean, if you were listening to or reading the Atlantic, maybe you shouldn't be, because, it's not to say like everybody should be like, to have jobs should all be good guys, I guess, necessarily. But I think that is pretty egregious. If by your own admission you ran interference for people who were torturing other people, we know what the IDF does. We know their deal. We've been watching it for almost 2 years at this point, up close. Prior to this, I don't think it was really much on our radar as much as as a group, as a people, that kind of thing. But if you want to take what has been going on up to this point, and then say like, oh, this guy's just a writer or whatever, and then somehow manages to get looped in an insecure group chat, literal like group chat, like that you and I would start about war plans, like serious, like confidential, like super Pentagon shit. Like, and then that's not to defend the American war machine. Obviously, that's not my point. The security is not my point. I'm talking about like, this is just another, situation of, right now the country is being run by absolute unqualified morons with no decorum and no real idea what they're doing. There were other administrations that would, typically promote people within the field, not just some yahoo. And in some cases, like lower offices, like go run for local office, is where you would be. But like, generals got these jobs, like people that had been career military and rose up through the ranks, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not defending it. I'm just saying that it's hard to get your head around things politically and comment on them in like a way that doesn't sound stupid because it is so stupid. Like they're drawing us into their stupid. And that's what's really hard about all this and where we have been and where we're going. And it's hard to tell where we're going. And that really wasn't something I was planning on commenting on today. But as you can see, things are not going exactly as planned. Once again, if you're just now joining, we're Jaredless. He's having a power outage and he doesn't think his phone will be able to hold a good signal or have good audio or that. Because that's what you get for when you partner with an audiophile. Like, it's got to have the good audio. So we may hear from him later in the hour. But that is sort of like what's the most pressing thing going on. And I don't follow a lot of mainstream media, but you hear it ambiently. It's around us all the time. You see headlines, you see the nightly news, you hear things, and I'm not seeing the kind of blow up that I think that this would have had it been like literally any other administration, regardless of party. You had this happen in the Obama administration, the right would have been having an absolute fucking meltdown over it. And, it would have been Slur City, against Obama like it used to be. But then he would come on and be like, I keep it cool, and then just talk to everybody out of it. So, and be like, whatever. But this is a situation now where it's like, I think everything is so stupid all the time that like, oh, here, incoming another stupid, but that means that things are not being taken as seriously as they ought to be being taken. This really was a serious situation. It involves national security, I guess, to a degree. But more importantly, it shows how these people are not equipped to be handling this kind of level of of work. I mean, like, I don't want anybody at war. I don't want to do Israel's bidding, most especially, like, personally or like as a country. Like, I don't want any of that happening, right? So then, like, you just have like some unqualified idiot who doesn't even know what they're doing on a group chat who accidentally loops in a journalist about literal war plans. Like, that should be blowing up everywhere. That should really be like the top story on everybody's thing. There need to be hearings and committees about this shit organizing right now. But that brings me to my main topic here. We know the Democrats aren't doing shit. But that, like, what I don't think people are realizing is there. It's like they are actually. It's just not what you think it is. Like, you see a lot of people, a lot of Democratic supporters, a lot of, I don't know, people who would consider themselves independent or whatever, or just liberalistic or what have you, are looking at this situation like, you keep seeing things trending like, do something, and why don't you do something? And it's like, they are. This is literally their strategy. First of all, and you hear it over and over and over, we're out here like, tambourine, uniparty, tambourine, they're on the same team. Tambourine want the same things. I mean, like, I know, I get it. Like, you're tired of hearing it, we're tired of saying it, because we just have to keep repeating ourselves over and over again, because nothing is coming out of this conversation. And once again, we are well aware that we are on the losing side of this. There really is no organized left. There really is no leadership. There really is no group think. It's very cannibalistic against itself. And it's very hard to bring in new people who are really primed right this moment to be like brought in and welcomed in. But we have no superstructure. We have no superstars. We have nobody to hear from, except really bad faith, some bad faith commentators, which is again something I'm going to get to. So this is sort of, we have like our little introduction here on topics going on. And that's where we essentially are. So it looks like the Democrats are doing nothing, and functionally they are not. But what they are doing is, first of all, sitting back and letting these things happen, because there's this aura of punish the voters, right? Because nobody came out and voted for Kamala Harris. Because what we essentially had in this last election, which you can kind of see now, is there were Republican voters, there were independent voters who voted Republican, and there were, the other side of it was like, not like a very small percentage of Democratic voters actually voted, and like then basically nobody else voted. And that's where we basically see the numbers. And more than 2/3 of people in this country tend not to vote anyway, because what are they voting for? What are we getting? And we know that, if we want to relitigate here for a minute, no one chose, no one in the public, there was no primary to have Kamala Harris be the nominee. So she was essentially foisted on the public. Horrible candidate, horrible reputation, absolutely loathed and hated by the state of California for her conduct as what she was known as top cop, keeping people incarcerated to make money off of, arresting parents for debts in their children's schools. Really, really well known for making money off of prison slavery. And that was especially true when it came to people of color, because they make up the majority of the people incarcerated in general. And we're talking about the biggest state in the union, physically and numerically, so like basically what California like wants to see happen, for the most part, it is a major, major contender of what actually does happen in the country. But they hated her to begin with. Obviously, Republicans hated her. Democrats, unless they were very emphatic about the whole thing, were not for her. So most people just didn't even vote. Like, they're not going to vote for Trump, but they don't want her either. And that, again, comes back to being a full-throat supporter of genocide, of Israel, of sitting there saying, like, really courting the right. Because what the right can do is court the right, and they can court the middle. And that's their steez. They're able to do it because they can very easily manipulate the conversation to be like, yeah, but you think this, right? And then like people are in the middle are like, I guess I do think that. And it works. And it does work. It's like a very winning formula. And this is not like the first time that the Democrats have come off of this biteless milquetoast party where they can't get anything done, yet the Democrats come in there and just fucking steamroll every process through that they possibly can, whether they can do it or not. We know that Trump is like king of the executive orders, even though most of the time he would never get congressional support, which is why he's doing it. And what he's calling for is illegal and will never happen, and then he loses interest in it anyways. So he'll sign whatever anybody puts in front of his dumb fucking face, and leave his stupid Diet Coke rings on top of it, and then like just move on to the next fucking thing, even though it's never going to work. And we've already been through this one time. You know, I did a solo show a few weeks back talking about that, like the history of how we got here in certain ways, including, you know, Trump's history. So you can look back on that if you want a little bit of a history lesson. Point is, we are not really. In some ways, this is kind of I hate the term unprecedented, it's so overused at this point, but in some ways, we, at least in our lifetime, have not really experienced this odd of political climate, but in other ways, it's same old song and dance. So where we are now is we do know that the Democrats are absolutely toothless in all of this on the surface, right? They're doing nothing, they're saying nothing. Occasionally a tweet will come out to combat some right-wing tweet, right? But basically, they've gone essentially silent, except for Chuck Schumer, who's just really feeding the machine, saying and doing the stupidest, most idiotic shit he could do. And that is also, again, by design. People don't really seem to understand playing stupid is also a strategy. So him as like the head of the organization, coming out and doing stupid shit, promoting his own book, which is just unhinged, like, you know, Israel support, saying that his job is to keep his job. A quotation from him is that his job is to I can't remember exactly how the wording was. And essentially, his job is to keep Israel from being hated by the left. Well, good news that he doesn't speak for the left. Yeah. So in the chat, someone says. Type Traveler says, look how rad it would have been to have Jill Stein right now. That is like a kind of a neat idea. I don't know that she'd have been fought at every turn, obviously, by everybody, by both parties in every single way, if that had actually happened. But that actually kind of feeds into what's going on now, because what we're seeing and what we plan on discussing today, what I'm getting up to here, is this do nothing appearance and be dummies and turn towards the right that we're seeing the Republicans doing, or I'm sorry, the Democrats doing, is their strategy. Now, I've said this a million times on the show, but it bears repeating. Probably will have to say it a million more times. These people are in the top echelon of society, Republicans and Democrats. They are being paid insane amount of money from lobbyists, insane amount of money from the government that they constantly give themselves raises for. They live in the laps of luxury. They get anything they could possibly want or need. Nothing is out of their reach. They're trading stocks like motherfuckers. Don't forget, like, them all buying stock in body bags and shit in funeral homes when COVID was at its worst. The do nothing strategy is a strategy, because there is this aura of punish the voters and the non-voters for not supporting Kamala Harris. That's going on. And at the same time, it's like, well, if they do nothing and then they just let the Republicans steamroll, what they're doing is revolving villain. The Republicans have no problem being the villain of the story. And they never have, they never will, right? And in so doing, the Democrats in a situation like this will step aside and let them put forth all the policy, change all the things, do all the things that are not in the least bit popular, nothing that people don't want, doing things that are actively harming the American public. And then they'll be like, no, don't, stop, please, no. And they're faking it, obviously. It's a total ruse, because you have to think about, even though it seems like when you look at it on the surface, you feel like the money in the support for this government comes in infinitely. It's like, oh, there's infinite number of people. No, the number is finite. You know, and the richest people speak first. We're talking billionaires, and we're talking trillionaire corporations, right? And they don't just court one side or the other. Think of like the pharma industry. Like, they're giving money to anybody that they think that will do their bidding. And money talks, and it does. So if the pharmaceutical industry wants something, or like the logging industry or the oil industry, if they want something, tech industry, they're going to pay off everybody and then say, you do what I say, and then they say, yes, sir, and they do it. And that's it. So it doesn't matter if they pretend that they're not for it or they're very quiet about it. They are also taking the same money from the same donors. And their role is to step back and open the road and the channel to the Republicans to just ram through whatever horrible shit that they're asking for that will support them and their industries. We have Reagan to thank for this, for when he, sold off the government essentially 40 years ago. So, so what it ends up looking like is, it's like, well, why aren't they doing anything? They were literally voted into the offices that they have to oppose and be a party of opposition to the Republicans when they weren't in power, and vice versa. And we know that when they are in power, the Republicans are just like out there, like it's having megaphone moments. Like they are like the loudest, most oppositional, most obstinate, fight you on every fucking point situation. Yet the Democrats never do this. And this is not just now. This is like pretty much for the last, I'm not a political historian, but for a very, very long time. Around the Civil War era, there was a time when they really had kind of a flip-flop where the Democrats, and especially a huge party known as the Southern Democrats, really upheld what modern Republican values and were pushing for them. And Republicans were a little more towards the straightforward, country ahead of party idea. So that, and that's kind of flip-flopped over time. So now their strategy is to do nothing, but it's not only just do nothing, it's do strategic nothing, because I forgot to say what I was going to say earlier, which is that I have said it a bunch of times. These people being at the top echelon of society have access to information and data and information firms who specialize in drawing data and information from people and giving that to them, statisticians and things like this. So they are way ahead of us, both parties, in every single way, are way ahead of us, years ahead of us on trends, where things are trending, and what public supports, what they don't support, what they might bend on, what they might fight back on, what they, I don't even really know how to get into the depth of it, because it's just so wide of a conversation that they know these things ahead of time. They know where people will spend their money. They even stuff that maybe seems insignificant, like what video game are people favoring right now? Like that can be used to, remember when AOC was playing the what's that one the little guys running around? but you think she was just playing that for no reason? No, it was super popular at the time. This was a couple years ago. I'm not a gamer. I can't think of what it's called. The little guys in suits that run around. I know that's real descriptive, right? But I know if you know games, you know what I'm talking about. She would just get online and play that game. Like, give me a fucking break. She's not doing that. And I don't care if it's like your free time or whatever. Go do something important. Get the fuck off the internet. She was trying to win people over, and that was, a really big thing that was going on at the time. And that's what they do. So when they come out and they do like these stupid, you saw that video, like choose your fighter, like that's some bad intel that they got, what somebody told them to do. Like, they don't just come up with these ideas on their own. They're told to do these things by the data. They're paying millions and billions of dollars to these firms to collect. So they know what people are upset about. They know what people are willing to fight about. They know what people are probably willing to let go. They know the climate. They know how the chances, when it came out as this big surprise that, they're at, like, the ABC poll, I think it was, said that they were at 7% approval rating, which is the lowest that those pollsters had ever had. I saw some other polls said basically no higher than 27%, which again was the lowest. That's by design. They're aware of that, and they're not worried about it because they're playing the long game. Politics is a long game. But what they are doing, and this is sort of the main topic of the show here, what they are doing is they know who is the most likable through this data. They know who the most likable, I'm just going to hiccup here for a few minutes. Well, I'm talking too fast and not breathing enough. They know who the most approved is among their base, right? They don't give a shit what the left thinks. They don't give a shit what the right thinks. They're looking at the middle. They're looking at the people who are feeling like they could leave the Democratic Party behind and look in other directions. And they're looking at the sycophants, the stands. I know when I say sycophants, it's like people, that's an old term, but people say stands now. So you get it. So I know that, like, they know this. They know that Chuck Schumer's rating is below the dead, right? But there's a couple of people that people still have faith in out there that are supporters, right? And that's Bernie Sanders and AOC. And it just so happens, right at this time, when they have zero power and nothing they could seemingly do, those two are holding rallies in the off season. Interesting. So, the most popular Democrats by data with supporters are holding rallies in the off season when nothing matters. And they're talking about getting money out of government, and they're talking about universal health care, and they're talking about all the things that they were promising all that time, right? And I think that if you want to get conspiratorial about it, I kind of have, for my own feeling, I kind of feel like looking back at 2016 and things like this at this point, that Bernie always was like never for real. Like it was always a Democratic ploy, right? To rally Democratic support and then undercut him a couple of times, and knowing that people might be pissed, but they go along with it, right? So they were never actually going to do it, because if they let him go through and then rally mega support and he becomes president, and the people are going to be like, okay, where's the healthcare? Okay, let's get some support, some social support here. Let's get some things going on. Let's do some of the stuff that you promised we'd do, right? So they would be held accountable for that, and then it would be a big fat failure. So what do they do instead? They build him up. They get this major support by everyone. People from the outside come into this circle, really supporting Dems like they never have before. And then he gets undercut real bad a couple times, and it's like, wah, wah, wah. Oh no, look what they did. Because who cares? Long game. So off-season rallies at a time when he really like isn't, except for basically by the left, looked at as having fucked everybody over and been part of the machine the whole time. We know that he voted for war spending. We know that he supports Israel. We know that we've all heard my good friend Joe Biden shit that went on and on and on. And he was a supporter of everything all the time. So the idea that he was the big dissenter of 2016 and the big interrupter and the big change movement guy, because remember the Hope and Change campaign of Obama worked like a motherfucker, and they were really thinking like, let's double down on this and really buy into this, and then at the very end pull out the rug and be like, oh well, and then act like that was it, right? So for me, that's what I feel like. I feel like he was always a fake. The whole thing was a fake, was just to rally support. And then like, well, they're not going to vote for Trump now, right? Like, obviously they have to vote for Biden or Hillary or whatever. And then they found out they were dead ass fucking wrong about that. Tried it again, didn't work again. Now we're up to the third try, and this time we know his old ass is not running for president. Full fucking stop. So they're holding these rallies, and then they're putting out on social media. He put out a tweet. Well, let me be clear about that. An intern put out a tweet on his account that said that they had 15,000 people attend a rally in Tempe, Arizona, and 15,000 fucking people. And that we are seeing on the mainstream news, and that we are seeing on the internet. And it's because they are trying to take these two figureheads, one of the past, one of the future, as if sort of handing the baton off, to try to not only grift people out of money. Oh, give me a couple bucks, give a couple dollars donation, right? Just a few dollars. Hey, just give us a few dollars, right? To when people are in the most economically bad straits they've been in fucking decades. And like Great Depression level shit, because capitalism works so fucking well. We have a Great Depression every couple of years. Every decade at least. So they're drawing out all these people by like banging that old drum on the Hope and Change campaign idea, and they're rolling Bernie out again because these people are so desperate for their party to believe in their party that they think this matters, or they think this amounts to something, or think this counts for anything in any kind of way, and it doesn't. And to be having rallies like just a few months into a presidency is meant to do one thing only, and that's the job of PR. That's the job of rehabilitating and looking like, hey, not those guys, us guys, right? This is the new face of the Democrats. And then they're going to like roll out people like AOC and Pete again. And they are priming the fucking pump for Gavin Newsom. I promise you this. Because where in California, and that's what I said when that Biden was doing the handover and he had not yet quite, they hadn't made a decision who it was going to be. I swore up and down it was going to be Gavin Newsom, because he had always been like pretty fucking well regarded in California, up until the point they had this like quick, you need to switch and start going insane and super to the right, which he did immediately, because that's how they are. These soulless motherfuckers will sell out anything for money and power, and that's where they should not be in power. But he immediately like went into I'm not Democrat anymore mode, but I'm Democrat. This is what the Democrats want, to like literally like physically himself being photographed tearing down homeless encampments. And now he's got this podcast or whatever talking about like all this weird right-wing shit, and like having these really bizarre policies on incarceration. And they were trying to pass a statewide bill for universal health care, shot that shit down. Why would you do that in a place like California, where it obviously is overwhelmingly popular, right? So it seemed to me like, as when they had this whole strategy of let's court the right, he was right there, like right there. So I was sure that they were going to go with him rather than Kamala. But then she did the same thing. It's like, quick, go fill that mold. But she already was there. They really didn't have to make that big of a leap with her. So when you see these weird 180s that toddler mode, when you see these weird 180s that these people make, and it's like, wait a minute, a couple of years ago you were like all for this shit. What the hell's going on? That's what's going on. They have been told that now your role is this, because all of this is political theater. And there is no greater political theater going on than having the old guard with the new guard, who are like testing as the most popular people, come out and say, we're going to this and we need to that. And when the Democrats retake, but not making any firm promises on anything, just reiterating old shit, old talking points of stuff that should have happened decades ago, right? So they're not giving anything new. They're not doing anything new. They're just appealing to the desperate people and frankly, like the dumbest people that they can find, that they can still bring back into it, and then making it look like it's a bigger issue than it is, like making it look like 50,000 people in Tempe. Yeah, that's a lot of fucking people, but like, have you seen how many people go to a Taylor Swift concert? Like she sells out stadiums, you know, like that's nothing. 15,000 people is really nothing, but they want you to think that like, oh, it's like this everywhere. This is what the real people feel like. We hear you. We're one of you. We've always been one of you. And then so again, it's essentially just to get people who are experiencing the worst economic situation of their life, worst living conditions. Since I don't know when, honestly, like again, I'm not an economics expert. It just, you know, I know historical stuff, but when it comes to specific times and when, I know the 70s was really bad economically. Again, we were in a major war. Wrapping that one up, another failure war, and this happens every few decades. So it's hard to compare. It's kind of apples to oranges to oranges when you look at like, well, yeah, it's like we always have these depressions, but like which one's worse? Which, you know, it's hard to tell. But now we are at a place where all the money is going to war to make money for the top people. And if you think the Democrats aren't making money off the war machine, you're crazy. They're just keeping the lower profile about it. So I want to get out ahead of this. And I wish so much we had Jared with us to talk about his point of view as well. But I wanted to get ahead of this because we're only a few months into the Trump presidency, right? And then they started this theater group basically, and they're going to carry it all the way through. And the closer we get to the next election, the more intense it's going to get. The more people are going to gravitate towards it, because even though over here on the left we're sitting there saying, "Don't fall for this," Don't fall for this. It is an absolute grift. This is fake. This is smoke and mirrors. They're trying to get money out of you. This is literally a con. This couldn't be anything more than like getting your confidence and saying, we're going to do it different this time. We're going to make this happen. Not those other Democrats, but us. This is grassroots. It's not grassroots, not even remotely. And you think grassroots pays for, these places to sell out or whatever? They don't. So they're taking money from people in bad faith, people who can't afford it. They're just like, give a couple bucks. And they're like, and they start thinking about like, maybe this time we could really do it, because people really just don't have a firm understanding about these things and about how government works, because it's for so many decades been done in the dark. So if there's any kind of positive, and I do say that loosely, but if there's any kind of positive you could attach to the Trump presidencies, it would be that they did this shit, the dirty work, right out in the fucking open. All this time, right out in the open. This is what we want. This is what we're going to do. We're going to try to do it. And that's what, and when they took all those, they did that prisoner roundup and deported them, or I'm sorry, migrant roundup, not prisoners, but they treated them like prisoners. And deported them. They're like, we're going to do it. And the judge said, don't. And they literally said, fuck you. They were like, we're going to do it anyway. Crickets. So that's where we really are. With that, they're showing you that it isn't necessarily about having resistance when everybody on this, supports it. So when you get tired of hearing terms like uniparty and they both stand for the same thing, it's absolutely true. The real problem is these people that the Democrats like AOC and Bernie are managing to con into believing, which is going to get worse the closer we get. That's why it's so important to start talking about it now, to maybe you agree that it is a con, but your relatives or whoever else is like, oh, I think they're right. I think they have a chance to talk. No, you got to stop them because you got to. That's what we always kind of hope is we can just give you talking points about what to go and what to do, to share this, because I don't think a lot of the people on the left really ever intended to have to be constantly being the arbitrators of this information. Like, why do we have to tell you? Why are we Google? Why do we, that's why people hate us, because we get so mad that we have to constantly repeat ourselves about the most basic shit. That doesn't necessarily have anything to do with you or yourself necessarily. Like when you hear somebody say something anti-trans and you may not be trans or even know a trans person, but you're like, no, you fucking idiot. They're not doing sex changes on 4-year-olds, okay? Like, and it blows your fucking head up. So you turn into an asshole and everybody thinks that the lefties are assholes. But we're just tired. We're tired of saying the same things over again. We're tired of saying things that should be obvious. We're tired of dealing with these brainwashed people that if you took like one fucking second to realize how fucking stupid you are, then maybe something would change. But it's stupid by design. I've talked about it also, like, when they took civics courses out of schools, and that started in the 70s. When they took civics courses out of public school, that was also by design. We're talking Nixon administration, like, let's get them in the dark, right? Like, his whole thing was trying to do shit in the dark, and it didn't fucking work. So the like, and it was so stupid. Like, he was so fucking stupid that it took this team of people who were so fucking stupid multiple times, but they were finally able to expose him into the media and show like it really was stupid plus stupid equals, hey, like, this is what's happened. But that was the whole idea, like doing things in the dark in not letting people understand how government works has been such an effective plan for so many people, all the way through like the boomer generation, the Gen X generation, the millennial generation. Things started to become more clear, and that's because we all migrated to permanent internet, being on the internet. I mean, not that it wasn't available, but we all live on the internet now. And now we're into the Gen Z, and the alphas are coming through, and they live in a totally different world where they're never like they've never lived without it. They don't, that's a totally different thing. Millennials grew up without internet. We got the discs and the AOL discs in the mail, the very beginning of it, to install, and so we were at the beginning of it, when we were preteenish, let's say. and our home computers in the computer room, right? So we know what it was to live before, but we're the last generation to ever know that. And it changes things in the way that um, we had lived before, where we lived in darkness, essentially, where all the information came from approved sources, internet, or I'm sorry, newspaper, nightly news, like where everybody thought, well, if it's true, it's on the news. That's their whole point, right? No, we have never not been in an era of yellow journalism. They literally just do state bidding and make things up. They straight up make things up, because up to this point, there was not up to this point, but up to the point of like living on the internet the last, I don't know, 20, 25 years, we see there was no real-time fact checking. There was no challenge. Like, you average Joe whatever, like, it's your home newspaper on a Sunday morning, like, you can't be like, this isn't true, I'm going to find out. You're not going to do that. One guy might do that. Like, a couple of investigative journalists might blow the whistle on something else. Like, give me a fucking break. This was not how it worked. And then they try to use those tactics again, most especially when it came to Israel's assault on Palestine. Be like, you're not, what you see is not real, it's fake, it's made up. And we're like, we're fucking seeing it right now. I've seen like every possible way a child can get blown into fucking pieces. This is real and happening now. And that was never part of the lexiconagal version of things that there was before. And now we live in a time when, like, things are happening in real life. Like, people in that situation are like, look, it's happening right now. It's literally live happening. We're showing you the shit getting blown up right fucking now. And they're like, no, it's not. And then, so they don't know. And primarily the government is run by these geriatrics who've done the bidding of these corporations since the 60s and 70s. And that's why they keep dragging them along, even though they're like literally limbs are falling off from cancer. Everybody's walking with canes, getting wheelchaired around, giving each other wheelchair high fives and shit. And that's not ableist conversation. That's literally what's happening. We know that pharmacists in the DC area have said they are, and as a fact, filling Alzheimer's medication prescriptions for members of fucking Congress. And we know, like, all these people, look at fucking Dianne Feinstein. Like, she was all the way out of it. There was, I can't remember her name, but Ken Klippenstein did a story about her, where this one woman who's, I guess, still around, but she has been living in, like, a mental health, a memory care facility for months. And they were keeping it secret. Like, then he found this video of her and showed a video of her at the last time that she was present for something, and an aide was sitting there feeding her lines. These people are only staying in power because they are servicing who they have always served because they have benefited from it. You may stand to say that they maybe some have blackmail on the situations that they have to respond to and do what they're told, or there might be repercussions if they don't. Whatever, it doesn't matter. The point is in some way or another, compared to like the average person, these people have benefited all this time, decades and decades and decades, to live at the top echelon of society, basically like political immunity for any crimes that they would do is going to get covered up, maybe to use against them, but you know what I'm saying. So they have, these people have been horrible monsters for their careers, their entire careers. And that's the reason they keep these assholes hanging on, because it's so hard to break in new people, especially when you're looking at a situation where shit is right in front of everybody's face. It's really hard. It's not like you can't appeal to these people the same way 50 years ago those people were appealed to. Yeah, money, power, we'll groom you and we'll get you here. We'll do this. We'll do that. People will be paying millions of dollars to sit down with you. You're going to be a celebrity just like you wanted to be, even though you have no talent. That's what this really comes down to in a lot of cases, especially these days when in the era of influencers and celebrities who get famous for nothing. It's not like the internet invented celebrities who get famous for nothing, but it really, really fucking ran with it. So that's, these people who have no moral fortitude, no moral value, who just want to be famous, like think of like these influencers. Those are who politicians have always been. They have always chased that dream of, how can I be famous even though I have no acting skills, even though I can't sing, even though I can't dance, even though I can't write good books. Like, how do I become famous? And that's the way to do it. And you do it by molding yourself into anywhere you're actually needed in any way. And it's easier to take these fucking dinosaur people who have, like, you know, applesauce for brains at this point, and work with them until they literally drop dead, to get them to say, you know, do what I want you to do, vote yes on this, vote no on this, be quiet on this, make no waves about this, than it is to break in the new people who are expected to be internet savvy, the one of us essentially. So you see a lot of, well, I won't say a lot, but you see like a number of people, maybe in like the millennial age, starting to say they're going to enter politics, and then they do it on the internet. They tell you on the internet, let's get our following together and whatever. Let's make things, you know, like let's build. They're being sponsored the exact same way. Most people, you know, really believed that AOC story, that she was just a bartender walking house to house and block to block and winning people over. She co-owned that bar, and prior to that, she was a fucking CIA asset. And nobody knows this shit. People still believe that you can do it attitude, you know, type of a thing, because they want to believe it. And that is the people that right now Bernie and AOC are trying to court way ahead of down the road. And they might be also thinking, like, maybe probably this time, Trump might get impeached for real and deposed. So they might be operating on that, where they could just really go into gear. But it also might be that they're just trying to, you know, prime the pump, essentially, trying to set the stage for what they want to do. And the big problem here is, and I think why you see a lot of frustration coming up with the left, what it is. I mean, it's very fractured. It's very group. Very niche, and very fighting against each other, because if one person platforms somebody to hear from them, another person's got a problem with it, even if that they don't necessarily agree with it. But then the people that are being platformed, because there's always this talk about who's going to be the left Joe Rogan, who's this guy, who's that guy. It was, you know, there's these, you know, I don't pay attention to the podcasters. They're all idiots and assholes. And I'm not saying you shouldn't be able to make money off of doing this. I would love to be able to do it, being that I've been unemployed for fucking ever. And I'm looking like spending like hours a day looking for work that isn't fucking there, because, as I've also said many times, I've had 20 years in graphic design, art, and photography and filmmaking. I've had 20 years in writing. Plus, you know, technical writing, medical writing, educational design. This shit's all being done by AI now. You know, the jobs are gone. Like, I don't, like, what am I supposed to learn a new fucking trade that's going to get taken away too? They want to put money into a new education at this fucking point in my life. Give me a fucking break. So I'm struggling to find any kind of like meaningful employment at this point. And, it's people like that are desperate, and that they are taking advantage of, right? And that these podcasters are taking advantage of as well, because they're looking for the windows into people. They know that we're living in desperate times. They know that even if you're not if you're not a hardcore Trump supporter, you probably really don't like where things are going for yourself. You know, a lot of people are not that self-assured that things are great, unless they already were, and they've got like a lot of means already, you know. But we got a lot of young people coming up now who have nothing, who've never had anything. I know as a millennial, I've always lived on the dog shit side of things. It's never been thrive. It's always been survive. A lot of boomers found out that it was not the land of milk and honey like it was for their parents. You know, the post-war scenario, and like their parents just basically floated on air. They had these wonderful boomers had this wonderful idyllic childhood of, now things are made for children, television programs and toys, and there's a child culture, and they make music for us now, and you know, there's youth culture, and everybody, there's plenty of food in the refrigerator, very low poverty rates. Our life is great. I mean, if you were white, our life is male. Our life is great. We're not gonna have to do war. We're just gonna la-di-da around. Those people grew up, had children, found out the exact fucking opposite was true, and that shit was over. And they, you had basically a generation of spoiled ass brats who benefited from a lot of things, and then the ones that some continued to benefit, like in a legacy type of style, but others did not whatsoever. And I think myself and everyone most everyone I grew up with lived on the verge of poverty at all times. Ends were not meeting, and then these people did not know they did not have the survival skills to know how to deal with this, because they never had to deal with it in their life. Some did, obviously. It wasn't always, this is not a catch-all here. I'm just saying, loosely on the whole, that's essentially what you're looking at generationally. So that put millennials in a position to be people that have to grow up quickly, be mature for their ages. They hear that a lot because they really had parents that were just going wah 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 because they couldn't manage their fucking lives, and they had children. They just did not have the survival skills. So there's a whole generation of really shitty, mean survivalists. Like if you want to talk about the bunker and the survival, you talk to millennials, because they have grown up under these conditions, and many of us have not had the opportunity to really get past that. Unless you manage to get a good education, a good job, and then married someone under the same auspice. Like now you have like this really good joint income. Maybe you both have good credit. But that's not speaking for the mass majority of that generation. And I think it's even worse. I'm not a Z, so I don't really know exactly what they're about, but I know that we're much more closely aligned. And then it probably will be even worse for the alphas and everything to come after that. So what we're really talking about here is that we have someone to I'm going to talk to the chat. Hello, back to you, love. What is that? Love mod 456. Hello, back to you. This is live. We have a comment that says, boomers always say later generations are lazy, and it's not true. Most are working through jobs. And that's absolutely true. Thank you from Time Traveler. That's absolutely true. And that is something that, if you think back to, if you're millennial and you think back to your parents, like they would, like back the way money used to go, like even if they weren't doing very well, basically just your dad had a job and everybody lived, like you may not have lived like excellently, but like, it wasn't like now, right? Like they didn't have to do that. And now, we have to live this like really intense hand-to-mouth situation where the stakes are fucking high when we're talking about homelessness. And that's at an all-time high. And that's something that was never really something on the minds of the other generations, right? They never had to think, well, I'm going to lose my home. I mean, obviously people did. I'm just talking about, the generation mind, which again in itself is fake. It's just made up dichotomy that doesn't make it really that much of a difference. But it does make a difference in the way that like people experience things differently. So they take their experience and they put it on other people. So as Time Traveler said, the boomers put on this horse shit saying that the younger generations are lazy. We're not lazy. We're angry. We're tired. And not to mention, we are living at a time when we are like, probably like 25 years behind technologically than we should be. And I'm not talking about like Jetsons yet. I'm talking about everything should be automated that can be automated. Should have been for the past 10, 15 years, right? AI should have happened already and be in the refinement mode now, and where it's not this ecological destroyer. Because as we've said many times on the show, we're not anti-technology. We're not anti-AI necessarily. We're not anti-automation. We believe that if a computer or a robot can do your job, then a person shouldn't have to be doing it. But in response to that, there should be stringent rules about how that can be used. Because right now, we are at the absolute mercy, especially in the tech industry, dominating things, and Congress saying that like this is why there are no laws about this. saying that like we are seeking infinite growth, full stop. If we get rid of our human components who need breaks and are entitled to get breaks and days off and holidays and sick time, and robots don't need that. So we will run robots 24/7 at the expense of the world and other people, like the whole globe and people. And and you will make sure that we don't get taxed on it, and that there are no regulations, and that we are allowed to do this free and clear to the extent that we can imagine. And that's why there's so much AI nonsense being foisted on us that nobody wants, nobody asked for, and doesn't fucking work, because they have paid the government to give them the green light to do whatever they want. And that's why this is what it is. But we should be so much further past this, to where people, our society should already be adjusted to the idea that we get it like a dividend, essentially, a robot tax, paid for by robot tax. If you're familiar with the way the dividend and the oil dividend and Alaska works, if you are a permanent citizen of Alaska, permanent resident of Alaska, every year or twice a year, I'm not exactly sure, you get a payment. And that payment comes from the government. I think that it's the oil companies are forced to pay it, but it's like, I think it's routed to the government. I'm not from Alaska, so I don't know exactly the intricacies of it. But what I'm saying here is you get a payment, and that payment is to allow these companies to tear up your land, essentially, your state, and pump the oil out and sell it. So you get a piece of that if you are a permanent resident, right? So it would work the exact same way in a functional society where it's like, yeah, you can have infinite growth any way you want to, industries, do all you want, fire all the people, but we're going to tax you out the dick and make sure that that money then goes into a UBI type program to literally give people money, which would enhance society to the point where now people could, let's say that dividend, that UBI would pay for your bills. You basically pay your bills, your utilities or something like this. Like it would cover all that, or cover your basic living expenses. So then you would have the ability to choose where you wanted to work out of what was available. More than likely, you'd start your own business, or start doing your own thing, monetize one of your hobbies, something like this. No more fucking gig economy, obviously. And healthcare couldn't be tied to employment anymore, because people wouldn't necessarily be traditionally employed. And then the way that things work, when we're talking about computerization and globalization of internet, like how all this works, how you can work at a company in China and live, in Iowa or something to this degree, and things can be automated to such a degree. Really, human input is the 40-hour week is nonsense. That was nonsense when it was made up. And dependent on the idea that one, like the breadwinner, the man, would go out, work those 40 hours, but his wife at home would take care of everything else. Not you work 40 hours and then you come home and take care of everything else. That was based on old time economics that are way the fuck outdated. So we are now in a place where you could achieve in maybe 3 hours a week what maybe somebody did take 40 hours a week to do before. But we don't see anyone leaning into that, because then that's what this whole nonsense about stopping federal remote work is about. Because these people that own these great, that props up the real estate industry. These people that own these great big buildings now that were sitting empty during COVID, now we got to refill them, so that lobby, that the real estate lobby is in the ear of Congress and saying, we got to refill them. Those people are lazy. They're not doing good work. When statistically we see not only are people happier, healthier, more functional, they perform at a much higher rate of quality and consistency in their work than they ever did in an office setting. Not to mention that cuts out middle management. So, there's a lot of nonsense attached to the way that we live now. We're about, like I said, 25 years behind technologically living where we should be. And as long as we are under this same scenario of government with no change, and I'm not talking new party, and I'm not talking reform. You can't reform this shit. I'm talking about, if we don't, usurp this process and go around it and form some other sort of like global union or something of people that work around these things and work together with our own power in some way, then they're going to continue to hold us back as people. They're going to continue to keep us fat and sick and needing to prop up the medical industries that are, rampant with fraud and you get terrible health care, and they act like the opposite would be true, or they act like it's great now, and it would be the opposite if it was universal healthcare type of stuff. We should have obviously universal education. We should have universal our utilities. Should be nationalized. It's all these things. So when you see, coming to conclusion now, when you see these rallies start to take place, it mean absolutely dick, mean nothing whatsoever, that are just meant to try to gather money that is ultimately going to pretend that it's going to them, but they're going to hand off to whatever idiot that they nominate, which is probably going to be like Pete or fucking Gavin Newsom or something like that. Some idiot who with probably no chance of winning, who has to promise you nothing because they just want to defeat Trump again and make sure like Trump can't come back for another term, which he can. You're just not allowed to run more than two consecutive terms. So he can come back another term. FYI, guys, and they're running off that fear. They're in overdrive about Orange Man bad, and they want you to think and to know that is a real possibility, which it is. It absolutely is a real possibility. But then if you think that the Democrats are doing nothing now, or did nothing in this last election and just absolutely ate shit hardcore, they're just going to do that again. And they're going to put forth the most minimum effort possible and probably win just to defeat Trump. But there was a quote not long ago by Tim Walz, who was the supposed would have been the vice president of Kamala Harris, who said something like, "We're going to have to promise these people the bare minimum if we want to get anywhere this next term, and that's health care and the bare minimum of survival." And that's where we are here. We're being offered crumbs by this party that is in full collusion with these corporations, with these billionaire donors, and with the Republican Party. And that's why we're saying, like, please, please, please don't fall for this because you're afraid of Trump. We're already here. We've done it before. Shit is bad. It's going to keep getting bad. But the Democrats aren't going to make it better. And they have no intention of doing so. They just want your money. So don't vote out of fear. Don't act out of fear. Stand up against the Democrats in every way that you possibly can. Because we already know Trump is bad. We already know that Musk is not even shadow running the government. He's literally running the fucking government. We have somebody who's not even from this fucking country, who's a literal usurper into our government. A foreign fucking agent in our government is running our fucking government and firing people right fucking left and center. Is talking about taking away people's benefits. Is talking about taking away Social Security. Doesn't even know how it fucking works, and that it's not up to the government about who gets Social Security. It's our fucking money, and it's the people and the recipients who are getting it. It's their fucking money, and it is a dog shit system, and that is already in fucking free fall failure. It needs to be something better. But that money was put there by every single fucking person in this goddamn country, and it's not theirs to fuck around with. So if you want things to just like, okay, we got rid of those guys, then let's just kick the can down the road till more of them can take over. That's what you get with the Democrats, because all they do is hold the line until the new bad guy comes in and then does all the work that they held onto. Now we're at the end of the hour. Unfortunately, Jared was not able to join us. I was really not anticipating doing a solo show, but it looks like I had enough mental fireworks that I could shoot out here to do it. So thank you for joining me and being with me today. I appreciate you. I appreciate your comments. I like hearing from you. We both do. Unfortunately, I don't do songs, so I won't have a song for you today. And we've had some issues with that as well. So we're really sorry about all the tech issues. But I mean, if you're watching from America, you know you have the exact same problems. And once again, we're about 25 years behind where we should be when it comes to technology and functionality. So let's work for something better, guys. Let's work for something. If we can't agree on our own politics, fuck the politics, right? Let's just try to make our lives better by being on the right side of things, not the political right, the correct side of things. Because if there's a history to remember us, let's be remembered for the right reasons. For trying to take care of each other, for trying to survive. If you're surviving, good on you. If you have ways that you could help a person or animals, even like if you can do any kind of helping of any kind, again, that's great. Even if it's just posting on the internet or trying to influence people the best way that you can to get out of this orange man bad Democrat savior loop. Please just don't get roped into it. We got to move past it. We are in an era now where they're holding us back incredibly. Look at the way how well China functions in a very short amount of time. In the same amount of time that it took our country to deteriorate to this point because of capitalism, just absolutely squeezing the life and sucking dry everything that there possibly could be to our existence. Chinese socialism has gone the exact opposite, and now they're basically living a dream life compared to what we live. And you don't have to take my word for it. It's out there. You can figure it out for yourself. Jared and I were laughing about that. They've got influencers here going over there now, but the people like us are paying them to do it. We've been doing this stupid shit for free, saying China's great for a long time. And of course, any great big society run by any government is not going to be 100% perfect. But when you look at what they've got, you look at what we've got, something's not adding up with what you've been told your entire life. So let's think of ways to move away from this party. I'm not an expert, but I like to pretend like I am. So let's work together. Let's think of ways to work together. Let's think of ways to make things better. You don't have to agree with your left comrades if you don't want to, but let's try to move in the right direction and get into a better place. So I will leave you there. Thanks again for watching. We'll be back next week, hopefully, with less technological problems. I appreciate you keeping me company, and take care of yourselves, take care of each other, do the best you can, and let's get the word out there. Don't believe the Democrats, okay? So take care, everybody. Bye!